Hi, welcome to this introduction to MacHg. I'll start by opening MacHg, and here we see an empty document. MacHg is a GUI to the distributed revision control system MacHg. So you can use MacHg to manage a whole collection of files and folders, source code, maybe C files, C++, whatever, to upload those files to a server, collaborate with other people on a team, take a look at the history of the repository as it evolves in time, make changes to the repository, do merges, rewrite the history with rebasing, and so on. So let's start with a simple example of creating a repository. Let's start with the example of turning the circle view, it's one of the examples from the Xcode developer tools, into a repository. As we see here, circle view, it's just a normal folder with various files in it. So we can change this into a repository by simply dragging it onto MacHg. MacHg will say, do you want to create a repository here? What's a short name for it? Good short name is, of course, circle view. Create that repository. And here we go. So right now there are these various files which the repository initially doesn't know anything about. These are just files in the directory. So we should tell MacHg to actually track these files. So we do that simply by the action add remove selected files. And now MacHg will actually start tracking those particular files. So our next operation is to actually add these particular files to the repository. So we can do our initial commit. And we're done. It's instructive now to actually look inside our circle view directory and see that it's actually changed. We can actually do this. There's a little widget, an AppleScript widget, that'll change the status of the hidden files and folders there. We can actually see now, if we're exposing the hidden files and folders, that there's actually now this invisible .hg directory inside our circle view directory. And that contains the metadata for the repository. All of the various history and all the various compressed Delta versions of the repository throughout history are all contained in that .hg folder. So it contains a repository. Okay, let's take a look at adding an already existent repository to our document. Here's a repository that actually contains the source code from MacHg itself. We can just drag it straight onto the sidebar like that. It'll load up inside MacHg, and we can see these are the files and folders that make up the repository. However, we can actually take a look more interestingly now as look at the history of this repository. We can see there's been 10,975 commits to this particular repository. We could scroll through to some particular point in time. We could choose to scroll to some particular tag if we wanted the 1.41 release. It's just a little bit off the screen, and we can see that was the latest thing. We can see it was Matt McCall made it 5 months ago, and so on. We could actually take a look at the labels if we wanted for this particular. If we weren't so interested in the details, we could take a look at the various labels in the document. We could see there's only one open head, and that occurs at this particular revision. We could only show the various tags if we wanted, or just the open heads, or so on. Okay, so let's create our own little bit of history now. Let's switch back to the browser view, and let's do a little bit of random destruction here. Delete a particular file, modify another particular file here. Jason likes this, for instance, and we noticed is just as soon as I saved that the status of that file actually changed. It noticed it was modified. Go in here, for instance, and reveal this in the Finder and duplicate that particular folder, and it'll notice again that another file is actually being added. So we could go here and we could just select the whole thing, and as before we did this add remove selected files, and now it will mark for addition all the files that are newly present, and it will mark for removal all of the files that were missing. So here we can see the various statuses of the various files, for instance, by their little icons to the left of them, and so we could then take a look at maybe, for instance, not having the up-to-date files, not showing the up-to-date files, and we would only see now the files that have got changes, and in fact we could only see the files that are added, removed, and missing, and so on, by just changing the status of these particular icons. But when we're happy, and I should also point out as well that you can see just at a glance what's actually going on in this one particular directory. You can see we've added some things, we've removed some things, and we've modified some things. So when we're happy with those particular changes, we could take a look and maybe double click on this and see, oh, maybe I didn't like that one change here. I had the wrong capitalization here. Fix that, we're happy with that, we commit those 3 changes, and now it'll add another revision. We can go back to our history view, take a look at that history view, and we can see that the last revision is done by me now. And if we take a look at the details of that particular revision, we can see that one file was added, one was modified, one was removed. Okay, I'd like to talk about cloning. Here we have our document. I've saved it here as examples. The current document is circle view inside that we're looking at circle view. I'd like to clone that and make some dangerous changes. Have an experimental copy of CircleView. So I can just click on the clone button. We come up here and we'll change it to say bug fix. And that's our short name. Change the name here on the disk to bug fix. And now we get an exact copy of all the files that are stored in the repository inside CircleView bug fix. And we can actually see inside our examples folder here that indeed we have this other copy, CircleView bug fix. Okay, let's fix a bug in CircleView. We'll open that up. We'll say, assume that the radius was wrong. It should have actually been 120 all along. Save that. Commit this version. I'm using the shortcuts to save this particular version. Fix the current rate. So now CircleView bug fix has one extra change. We can take a look using, again, the shortcuts. In the history view, I've made one change here. I've redone the screencast a little bit later. And so here we can see this CircleView bug fix has one change, one difference that CircleView doesn't have, one change to push. We can also see that CircleView has no changes, no revision change sets that CircleView bug fix doesn't have. So we can turn around and push the change we've gotten in CircleView bug fix, this repository, to the repository CircleView. As follows, just push. We could set some advanced options if we wanted, push up to a specific revision if we had one, and so on. But we'll just go ahead and push that. And now we can see the results of the push. It pushed one change set. And now CircleView as well, if we go and take a look at the history of CircleView, I've used the command keys again, has this particular change set as well. Okay, let's talk about servers here. I've got a pre-existing document here, example repositories, which contains a number of repositories I've imported into this document. Let's just go ahead and add a particular, let's add a new repository group, for instance. We'll add it adds below. We'll call that hello. And inside here, to this particular repository, we're going to add a server repository. I've got this on the clipboard. It's an example repository that exists on the servers of Selenic, who make Mercurial, and we can see the remote repository is reachable. We've got a name for it. It's called hello. So this is a reference to the server, and of course, to actually get it onto our computer, we need to clone it. It's from the server, so we can clone it here. It's going to put it at the root level. We could put this instead on the desktop, and then we'll clone it from the server to create a local clone of the repository on our machine. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the working copy. So let's switch to this demonstration repository I've got in my repo. Let's update the working copy to version 7. So this restores all the files and folders to the exact same versions they were as of version 7. And so we can see that's colored the color of a parent. We can actually see those different colors by looking at the labels. And as you see down here, there's a tag, there's a parent, branch, bookmark, and of course we could set the various different colors sliders to be the colors that we want. So those are the colors that we see. So we can see we're actually at revision 7. We can also see that in the information. So let's go make a change here to the file. Open and say something like, I like cats. So we save that, and so we can see we have a change. In fact, one file has been modified. If we go back, take a look at our history, we can see, there's this dotted history which tells us what will happen when we actually commit that file. We're going to be creating another branch because we're branching off from 7, which is our current parent. So if we go back, change that, save that as a simple change, and we go back indeed to our repository history, we'll see that indeed we actually get a branch. So we can see indeed that version 16 is now branched off from version 7. So 16 is version 7 with that simple change we made. Let's say we want to merge this back in. We've been working on some particular fix or something. We want to merge version 16 back in with version 15. So we can go ahead and actually just pull up merge. It'll ask us which file we want to merge into the head. We could, for instance, merge that one or this one. We'll merge 15. And so when we go ahead and merge, it'll give us this information saying the files have been merged. Turn around, and we can see that this current version actually has two parents. It has 15 and 16. So we can go ahead and we could commit all the merged files, and we could say commit the merge if we wanted to after reviewing the files. And now it'll update and we'll have a committed merge. So to summarize, MacHg is a GUI front end for Mercurial. In it, you can have this document structure which has multiple repositories that you can work on. There's a number of features which I'm skipping over here, like the history editing commands, for instance, rebasing, editing, stripping, collapsing, the other commands for importing and exporting patches, and indeed there's a full set of preferences, as you can see, for the appearance, Mercurial, messages, when to update it from Sparkle, and so on. So MacHg is based on Grand Central Dispatch, so it has all the lovely threading and multiprocessor goodness of 10.6 Snow Leopard. It's available now. Go out, try it, use it, and give me feedback. Thanks.